I'm Jenny.
I'm Tashi.
Today we're going to talk to you about North Africa and the Middle East. This region is often referred to as MENA. This is a very interesting part of the world that consists of several countries that are often grouped together. Many people are unaware of the significant similarities that lie within these two regions. So we'll explore some of those today in our lesson.
The countries in MENA are Algeria, Bahrain, Djibouti, Egypt, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Syria, Tunisia, and the United Arab Emirates.
The language many people in these countries speak is Arabic. The most classic greeting is Assalamu alaikum, and that means may peace be upon you. Another important word for our course today is khobz, which is the Arabic word for bread. The Fertile Crescent, stretching from the Egyptian Nile to the mouth of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Iraq, is where agriculture began. This is where lentils, wheat, chickpeas, and olives were first cultivated. Thus, the art of agriculture and cooking with these grains has been very important to the region for thousands of years.
Recently, MENA has had some problems with the production of essential ingredients for bread. For example, in Morocco, the amount of wheat produced is always very fickle due to the fact that it's impossible to predict how much it'll rain. In 2014, the harvest of wheat was less than average due to the lack of rainfall, but in 2015, the harvest has been higher than average due to the plentiful rainfalls.
In addition to a lack of moisture, major problems with wheat production also include diseases and insects. Septoria, Tri-City blotch, and stripe rust can cause severe losses, even in the wetter years. Other prevalent diseases include stem rust, powdery mildew, tan spot, and root rots. Hessian flies annually cause major damage, particularly in Morocco. Recently, there has been a 30% decrease in the harvesting of bread, wheat, and durum.
Moroccan scientists are working very hard to overcome this problem as they're developing various resistance genes. So far, there are quite a number that have proven successful, called H5, H11, H13, and many others. These genes prevent the larvae of the Hessian from latching onto the durum.
Moroccan bread is called khobz and is characterized by a round, somewhat flat shape and a slightly coarse texture. Khobz often replaces utensils such as forks or spoons, as it is used to scoop up meat, vegetables, sauce, salads, dips, and many more. Although often referred to as flatbread, bakery-made Moroccan bread is often a full inch and a half thick in the form of a circle. No matter the thickness, however, the dish shape of the khobz allows for lots of crust, which is perfect for eating tagines, a classic Moroccan food that is an equivalent of a stew made from meat and vegetables.
The dish is named for the method of which it's cooked, in a circular clay pot. The pot is heated over the charcoal with enough space between the coals and the tagine pot to prevent the temperature from rising too fast. Large chunks of charcoal are bought for this dish because of their ability to stay hot for hours.
Once the stew has been cooked, it is eaten using bread as a spoon. If you happen to be eating this dish, make sure you only use your right hand. It's a traditional custom that the left hand is associated with bad bodily functions. You use your thumb and your first two fingers to hold the bread. Using more than this is a sign of being gluttonous. At each meal, one person is designated the role of distributing the bread. You can never take bread unless it is given to you. It's a custom based on respect for elders.
Moroccans can be spotted daily in the early morning carrying bags of assorted breads that they have picked up in the market. In villages, women can be found baking bread from scratch in earthen ovens. In traditional places, especially in the mountains, this is the woman's traditional role in society. However, women's rights activists have recently been trying to remove this, as it limits women from becoming much more in society. Women's education is a very important global issue, as there are currently 62 million girls worldwide who are not able to get the tools that they need to succeed in this world.
We have attached an additional reading on the online course that we encourage you to check out because this is an issue that's very important to us.
Very important.
In Egypt, the most famous bread is called aish, which literally means life in Arabic. This illustrates its cultural importance.
Bread was so valuable in early Egyptian culture that it was used as a form of money. Around 2560 BC, when the pyramids were being built, bread was used as currency to pay the workers.
The Ancient Egypt Research Association excavated 2 bakeries from 1200 BC in 1991, and they identified up to 50 different kinds of breads and cakes that the ancient Egyptians were able to produce.
Bread in ancient Egypt was different than it is today, mainly because of their main wheat, emmer, which differs in some properties from most modern wheat used to make bread today. The emmer wheat contained very little gluten, which gives modern breads their light, airy consistency. This grain also made the process much more difficult to make bread. Usually, only enough grain was refined at one time to fill the needs of only one day's meals.
Skyrocketing prices of wheat and bread were one of the factors that initiated a series of uprisings that took place in the Middle East in 2010 and 2011, now called the Arab Spring. Although those events are far more complicated than simply related to food. If you want to learn more about the Arab Spring, we have posted some suggested readings for you on the online course. Since the conflict is still very much going on today and lives are still being lost, we encourage you to find out more about what's going on. Being a productive member of society means knowing what's happening all around you in the world. So with that, it's time to catch our plane to Morocco, where we are going to go talk to Elias. Yalla, Tashi!
No problem.
It was a long plane ride, but we made it. We're here
Inspiring.
in Morocco. So Elias, where are you from?
From Tangier. It's northern part of Morocco. No, northernmost part of Morocco.
Okay. So it's the part that's closest to Spain, right?
Yeah, 16 kilometers
16.
from the closest points.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So can you teach us a little bit of Arabic? How do we say hello?
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Ismi Jenny.
Ismi Tashi.
Ismuha.
Ismi Ilyas.
Ismi, yes, welcome. So we're here today to talk to you a little bit about bread in your country. So we learned earlier that you say that hopes. Is that correct?
Hobbs, yeah.
Hopes. Do you eat a lot of hopes where you're from?
Yeah, we eat everything with bread.
Everything with bread?
It's like some countries have rice, we have bread.
We have bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about tagine. We learned that you have a special technique for eating
this.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
And not with your left hand, right, Elias?
Yes, because basically the devil eats with you. He eats with your left hand.
The devil eats with his left hand. So you put it under the table and you eat like this. Moroccan food is delicious.
Yes, I miss it.
You miss it? Do you make your own hopes or do you go, how do you get your hopes?
Well, we usually buy it. It was like my grandmother makes her own. And when I was a kid, my mother used to make the
That's
French
hopes.
one we call kumira,
Kumira.
the French baguette.
No, the French.
We made some.
We did make some French baguette.
Very
Yeah,
good.
that's an interesting thing to know. France has had a lot of influence in Morocco. So the culture, the language, the food.
Colonials.
Yeah, so bread, like you said, is very important. So you would say that it plays a large part socially and also culturally, right?
Yes. It's kind of. I mean, like most kids remember in the child, their parents sending them to buy bread or go to get from what is a huge furnace? Because most people can't afford ovens, so they just send it to a huge furnace where they pay just a small price to make a huge batch of bread.
Mm-hmm. And would you say there are gender roles involved with that? Is it normally the women that
Yes.
make the bread?
Yeah, it's mainly. That's why I don't know much about it.
Really
It's mainly-
interesting.
It's mainly women. I mean, women don't tend to work, so the social expectation was for them to cook.
Interesting. Do you think that's a problem? Like, are women like rising up against that, or is it just kind of the way you think it'll always be?
It's a problem, and it's changing, but very slowly,
Yeah.
and not as fast as here.
Interesting. So, have you gotten a chance to kind of travel around Morocco? Do you think the bread customs are the same all around Morocco? Or is it like
Yeah.
specific to Tangier?
It's all over Morocco. I would say I've been to a lot of places, and they all have. Well, our cuisine is based on tagine, and you can't eat tagine with like spoons. It just doesn't seem right.
That's very interesting. Also, can you talk about the significance of couscous? Because although it's not bread, it's kind of similar.
It's like our national dish, because it's based mostly on vegetables and grains.
Mhm.
So you eat it every Friday. It's just sort of a tradition. It didn't develop from religion. Just because on Fridays, most people go to the mosque, and when they come back to meet their family.
I want to also talk about tea because that's what I love. The tea.
Yeah, we're a huge consumption of tea. Most of our tea is just mint tea.
Mint tea.
Yeah, so
Classic Moroccan tea.
Like if you go to anywhere, it's usually very sweet, but since my father's a doctor, he doesn't like that very much, so sometimes not that sweet. But it's really good. Best you'll ever have. Again, apparently global warming is gonna make Morocco. It's gonna affect Morocco the hardest in terms of dryness. It's expected by the IPCC. So the north is gonna get really, really dry. Like where most of the major cities are.
So production is going to go down.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
شكرا مع السلامة.
شكرا
شكرا صاحبي.
مشكلة